This is a question about one of your famous talks, which I really think, whether people want to hear it or not, it actually applies to life and is true. It's about no weight classes in the jungle. I know it probably hurt a lot of people's feelings or some way, or some people cannot accept it, but it's kind of like the way it works in nature and in reality. That, well, first of all, we're not all created equal, and there are many variables to people's success or failures.
Right.
Some people are dealt with worse hands than others. Some people seem to have it all, but there's a lot of variables that got them that way. A lot of variables are where they'll end up.
Yeah.
So basically, can you elaborate more on the weight classes in the jungle in powerlifting and compare it to like what you really believe in that?
So where that came from, I was dealing with a soldier. He was overseas, and he was corresponding with me. And one of the things that we had talked about is his work capacity just kept increasing. And I was like, I don't understand. You're not on a full meal plan. You're in the desert. It's hot as hell, but you're getting stronger. Your numbers are coming. And I was like, you're probably going to need to scale back. He said, man, there's no deloads and there's no time off in a war zone. And he was like, there's no deloads in a war zone. That was the original statement, right? So for me, I was looking at somebody that I knew was really, really strong. And they were a young competitor. They wanted to get into a competition. There was no direct competition in the high class or the low weight class. They just wanted to drop a weight class to correlate a bigger total relative to that weight. So I said, man, there's no weight classes in the jungle and there's no deloads in a war zone. The reason being, I think a lot of times people schedule deloads because it's accepted, rather than saying we can still do work. It just doesn't necessarily have to be the same level of intensity or the same type of work. Like we can get outside and pull a sled or push a prowler. We can do things. So you don't need a deload per se. I think a lot of people hear deload and they say time off. And that's something that I don't agree with. Now, weight classes are relevant to powerlifting because it invokes and creates good competition. Powerlifting, to me, if you ask me what powerlifting is about, it's about creating a community. It's about having a good squat, a good bench, a good deadlift, and being the strongest at each one of those three. Now, if you come up here and you weigh 219 and you deadlift 400, or you weigh 220 and you deadlift 405, who's stronger? Right? I'm going to say the guy that lifted 405. Then we get into the semantics of, well, I weighed 219 and he weighed 220 and he weighed this, and I said, okay, but the weight that you lifted was the greatest. That is what powerlifting was instructed to me, was the person who was the strongest. I had a coach one time tell me, I said, man, at 220 my numbers would be huge. And he said, okay, well, you need to get stronger. When I met Louis for the first time and I really sat down to talk to Louis, I said, he goes, what do you weigh? I said, 275. And this was multiply. He said, what do you weigh? 275. What did you squat? 750. He said, okay, I got a woman named Laura Phelps that squats 750 at 181. The reality of it is, this barbell in the sport of powerlifting is about strength. There are phenomenal people at all weights and all sizes. There are little people, lightweight lifters that have lifted huge amounts of times of body weight. If body weight were a reference point for strength, relative and to 10 times body weight, we would have people totaling 3,000 pounds. What I think the matter is, the body has certain limitations. A person who is lighter has certain leverage advantages, just like we saw with, where'd she go? Right here, on the deadlift. She is going to have certain leverage advantages based on her height and her relatively short stature compared to me in the bar and the deadlift. So we have to take those things into account and understand those things matter to certain people. But in the reality of it, if you're going to chalk me up and say my life came down to a total that's bigger, or a weight class with a smaller total, but I made a lower weight class,
Yeah.
I am a strength athlete. I am not a weight cutting athlete. I don't consider anyone that cuts weight wrong. I don't consider anyone that competes and goes against other lifters in a lower weight class wrong. What I want to say is, if you can't maximize the weight that you lift, it doesn't matter what you weigh. We're here to compete and lift the most weight. If you can do that 20 pounds lighter, more power to you. But I'm not going to put my body through a 20-pound weight cut to lift weights. I'm going to lift weights, and I'm going to be competitive as I can, as I am. That's what I say. But I say no one is wrong for that. It's just it's a statement. It's something that I use to try to trigger an understanding within a lifter. In the wild, in the jungle, no one thinks, okay, well, that poor antelope is over there dying. I'm not going to bother him. No, I'm going to eat your fucking face off. You know what I mean? Like, nature is taking advantage of what we have. If I'm a bigger person and that allows me to lift more weight, that's an advantage. If cutting weight allows me to lift more weight, then I'm going to start cutting. To me, it's about who picks up the most weight. That's it.
Yeah.
So it was never a detrimental thing.
No.
It was an idea to motivate a lifter who was on the fence between cutting and how that would impact their strength. And I was trying to get them to see that if they lift a lot of weight, nobody's going to care what they weigh. I mean, even since my first meet, I never ever had anyone ask me, okay, well, what'd you squat? 660. Oh, well, what'd you weigh? No one's ever followed up with that question, because to me, I think that they appreciated that 660 was a good number.
Yeah.
Now, like if I look at her, or I look at you, or I look at you, I have estimations of what strengths are because I've been around the sport and I understand. If you're a 400-pound dude with a 400-pound squat, probably got some work to do, right? But if I look at you and I see you're obviously a big person, and you tell me your squat's 800, I know how fucking hard 800 is. I'm not going to discount that squat by how big you are. Now, if you're a 200-pound person and you squat 800, that's going to up the impressive factor, but it's still 800 pounds. Right? It's all impressive. Strength is impressive.
And I guess on the other side of things too, like you mentioned, the antelopes, like that's also the card you're dealt with. Right. Sometimes some animals are born antelopes. Nothing you can do about it. You can't, unless I can't get into other details about maybe changing your species, but that's not a thing yet. Like some animals are born antelopes, then in the jungle, their role is to either have a family, breed other antelopes, continue other antelopes, and then there are animals like lions if they're in the same jungle, and if a lion's hungry, they're probably going to find an antelope and eat it. And the thing about the antelope, it can either survive all those encounters with the lions, and with the lion, you're born king of the jungle, basically, but the lion could still use that power for always going more, the nature instinct, and that lion could make one false move, it'll die before the antelope. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen some stuff with lions with the wildebeest, and literally rip the lion with the horn, all the way through the rib cage. The flesh was actually hanging off, and the issue with that was it was going to need some kind of human interaction to save its life, get stitched up or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in anything else other than the fact that the forces of the world are working against us, right? We're all doomed to die. That is one thing that we are guaranteed. If we took a breath of life, we are going to die someday. And all of these things that you're talking about, things that I can't control. I can't control if you cut weight. I can't control if you get stronger. So as a person, as a lifter, all I can control and contain and care about is myself. For myself, being the strongest lifter that I can be is all I can control. And if I think in the back of my head that a weight cut is going to benefit me, hurt me, or be neutral, I have to assess that. But as I am, as I've trained, as I pursue strength, all that matters to me is 5 more pounds on the bar. I would never, ever get upset over a weight cut. I mean, that's just something that is my personal opinion. If somebody asked my opinion on it as a professional, I would say there are some awesome people that do weight cuts. There are some awesome people that perform very highly. But young people following suit, there's a great meme out there about Dan that said, reasons I sumo. 12% because it's technically sound, 88% because Dan Green does it. That's my biggest worry with weight cuts, is that people see a lifter they want to emulate, cutting weight, and they think, to be that level, to be that good, I have to do this. And really, I encourage lifters to be strong, to be competitive, and then at some point down the line, once they've competed a while, then to make those decisions. I see first-time lifters cutting weight. I'm not so sure that that's a good thing. And I'm not so sure that that's a good message that powerlifting as a whole is sending out that the only way you can be competitive is to cut weight.
The way I see it, I would only say like cut weight or something, like lose a little if like it's a health scare or something.
Sure.
But beside that, unless you're like going for an all-time world record, then that's when you really cut weight
Well,
if
the
it's doable.
The USAPL and the USPA are doing a really good job of creating situations where there's a high content of competition.
Yeah.
So if I'm, in a 250 and I see 5 guys competing at 242, that's a legitimate area that you
Yeah.
say, okay, I want to cut weight because I'm close.
Yeah.
These guys are competitive. That 8 pounds is probably not going to be that much.
Mhm.
There are people I've seen like stressing themselves, like young women weighing 120 that are cutting down to what's the one below that, like 114. Okay, so that's 6 pounds at that point. But that's a little over. I mean, we're talking 5% of their body weight, which is not crazy, but I've seen like 125 going to 114. The more you get up near that 10% range, the more I think you're really pushing the boundary. I mean, of what you can do and then recover from the performance.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Does any